The Sikha we will be learning is in Likutei Sichas Chelik Chov Zayin, the first Sikha to Parshas Behar. Talks about kinyonim. Kinyonim means when you acquire something, and you have to do a certain act of acquisition, but that's not what the Sikha is going about into what the act is. But there are dinim of kinyonim, and talking about which type of things you could be kena. And I don't mean which category of things you could be kena, but as far as time is concerned, as we'll see in a second. By kinyonim is aklal. When it comes to be kena, to acquire things, there's a rule. A person cannot make someone else acquire something that's not in the world. For instance, if I'm going to tell somebody, I'm giving away to you, and a person makes a kinyan, I'm giving away to you something, whatever I'm going to buy tomorrow. Tomorrow I plan to buy something, so now I'm making a kinyan with you. So I cannot be maknet. I cannot give it because it's not here. You cannot be maknet something that doesn't exist at that moment in the world. Was the far is the din. Therefore, the din is as a mecher peiris dekel chavere. If someone sells fruit of a palm tree, of a tree to his friend, either the peiris among him vaccine before the fruit started growing. So I'm telling you, I'm selling to you, and you make a kinyan. The fruit that are going to grow. You could change your mind. In other words, the acquisition didn't work. It's not his yet. Even after the fruit actually grew, you can still change your mind, because when he made the kinyan, the fruit were not there yet. So there's no kinyan, so he doesn't own the fruit. So you could always change your mind. Only if you are makna to him, the object itself, for the sake of the fruit. Now, obviously, if you're makna an object, that's called bola elam. That for sure works. If I want to be makna you my house, and my house I own, that's for sure kinyan. Or if I want to makna you a tree. But here he's not interested in makna him the tree itself. He wants to just be makna him the fruit that the tree going to grow. So if you say I'm makna you the fruit, that doesn't work because the fruit is not here. But I'm makna you to you the tree for the fruit. Again, for instance, a tree for the fruit is the din that the din is the Rambam says as makna. That's not called that you are giving him, being makna to him something that doesn't exist. Because you're makna him the thing itself, the tree itself, and that's here. Even though you're not giving it to him for the sake of the thing itself, you're not makna to him the tree itself, but you're makna the tree for its fruit, and that's called that you are makna adover shebol, something that's there. Zog the Rambam, then the Rambam says at the din. That when it comes to hegdish or for tzedakah, for poor people, it means like this: that if you want to be makna something, not till now we were talking being makna something to another person. It's called a hedya. The regular ordinary person, Reuven wants to be makna to Shimon. So here the din is: if you're makna something that's not here, is not kaina. If you're makna the object, even though not the object itself, but the object for the sake of the produce, then it works. But if it's not to a regular person, you are makna to hegdish. You are able to be magdish something. You take something that's there, and I'm saying it's becoming hegdish. I'm giving it away, and I'm makna to it. I'm makna it to the bedek habayis, which is the fund of the Beis Hamikdash. Or I'm makna certain things for tzedakah, for the poor people, or which is like a neder. We'll see the word dinan dorim in a second. It's not the same din when you're makna something to an ordinary person. Why? A person would say, whatever my animal will give birth should be hegdish. Or whatever money I'm going to get at nine of the tzedakah, I will give tzedakah. So if he'd say the same thing to an ordinary person, whatever my payment will give birth, I'm giving to you. And you make a kinyan now. It doesn't work. Because I'm makning you just the produce, just the vlodes. Same thing with the money. The money I didn't get yet. But if it's for hegdish or for tzedakah, even though the object will not become holy because it's not in the world yet. You can be magdish something that's not there. But there's the difference between this and the regular cases. But you have to keep your word. In other words, when the thing comes, let's say you say my payment, every animal the payment will give birth is for hegdish. And it's not there yet. So when the payment is born, it's not hegdish yet. Just like by a regular person. But I am obligated now to make it hegdish. Because Shenemer, it says, I have to keep my word. Shenemer, it says, whatever comes out of your mouth, you have to do. This haste, it means like this. And an object that's not existing yet in the world, Hegdish cannot go, doesn't become Hegdish. Von deswegen is Chalachiva von Gavre, Lekaim Dvore Midin Neder. But the person, when that thing does come into the world, he is mechuyev, he is obligated to do it, to be Mekayim his word that he said. Why Midin Neder? That's what the Rambam means with Din on the Dorim when he said before. Because there's a din, if I make a neder, I have to keep my word. Pasuk said, you have to keep my word. So if I said this is going to, whatever comes out of, let's say, any money that I'll make tomorrow should be for tzedakah, and tomorrow I make the money, it's not, the money itself doesn't become tzedakah, it doesn't become the special din of tzedakah. But I am obligated to make it tzedakah. Why? By other things, I'm not. By regular hedget, if I do that and I say to a person, whatever my, let's say, whatever the tree will give out fruit, and it's not there yet, it's not, I didn't give it to him, and even when the fruit comes out, there's no obligation upon me to give it to him. It's not a neder, but when it comes to hegdish, and it comes to tzedakah, that's like a neder, or even a regular neder. If a person makes a neder that whatever is going to come out from this tree, I will give you, obviously you have to do it, you have to keep your neder. So here also by hegdish, tzedakah, even though you didn't use the word neder, but it's like a neder, if I say, a magdish, everything that's coming out, that becomes a neder, and the object does not become hegdish or tzedakah, but nevertheless, I am obligated to be magdish it and to give it to tzedakah. And the Rambam is noch mamshir, and then the Rambam continues. V'heil hadover kain, since it's so, im tziva odem k'shchibmera v'omar. If a person that's a shchibmera is a person who is very sick and he's dying basically. And there's a special din by shchibmera that whatever he says takes place. Normally, if I say to somebody, I'm giving you this, if he doesn't make a kinyan, it's not given to him. But by shchibmera, a person who's very sick and is dying, the Chachamim made a special din. If he says this should belong to that guy, it becomes his, even though there was no kinyan made. So here the Rambam says, if a person, when he was a shchibmera, command, it said, whatever this tree will give out should go to the poor people. Zocha b'maniyim, the aniyim get it. The poor people actually get it. Because by shchibmera, it actually happens. So here, it's even more than what we said before, that he's obligated to do it later, but by a shchibmera, it actually takes place right away. And then the Rambam says, Yesh geinim shechil, come over there. There's some geinim who argue, they say, She'ein aniyim zeichim, v'dvorim shahedet keine behem. That the aniyim, the poor people, will not acquire only things that by a regular person, he is keine. So therefore, even if the shchibmera says it, it's not theirs yet. And ain't the Rambam says, I don't agree with them. By a regular case, why doesn't it happen? Because there's no mitzvah that you have to give it to him. And if you didn't give it to him, you didn't give it to him. But when it comes to tzedakah and hegdish, just like when you make a neder, you have to keep it. If you said I'm giving hegdish, you have to keep it. If you said I give it to tzedakah, you have to keep it. But mela, there it takes place. Why does it take place? Because you are obligated to keep the word that's neder. But the bottom line, the nekuda that the Rebbe is bringing for the Rambam here is, there's a difference between hegdish and regular case. So this is in halacha. I spoke many times that jeder halacha from Teire, every halacha in Teire in Zugab tzir teichen kipshuti hotzeich Teire yiro in the way the ruchnis. In addition to the meaning of the halacha, simply in the halacha, it also has a lesson, because it's part of Teire, and the word Teire means a lesson. So there's a lesson in the spiritual service of a Yitu Hashem. But Loshen Rambam, and the way from the Loshen of the Rambam comes out as an Eitzah in Aninya from Tikkun Adeyas, that every halacha has some kind of advice in how you fix your attributes, you fix your emotions, you fix your deyas, your ideas. And the Loshen of the Rambam is that Reiv Dina Teire Eina Ela Eitzahs, the Sakan Adeyas Liyasha Karamaisim. Most of the dinim of the Teire, even though they're simple dinim, simple halacha, the way they kipshute, they also are eitzes, advice, how to fix your deyas and how to straighten out your maisim. So therefore, the same thing here. This halachas that we said before has a ruchnisdike meaning also. It's something in ruchnias similar to the halacha. And which protim of what we said before. So the Rebbe said the prote dinim and alba kinyonim, the different dinim in kinyonim that we said before. Which are the different things we said? Number one, the chiluk v'shnamecha peres dekel ilma peres. So the first thing we said that there's a difference if you sell just the fruit that are not there yet, doesn't work. But if you sell the tree for the sake of the fruit, then the fruit becomes his. That's number one. A second thing is the chiluk von Rambam zwischen din ha'edya dikn yosei shein odem metzuva lakneis und din hegdish v'din aniyim avelcha the odem is metzuva l'kaim dvorov. The difference between ordinary people, stam people, that there it doesn't work if you're makna him something that's not here yet, versus hegdish, where there's a different, even though it doesn't become, but there is an obligation with the fathers. Even something that you're giving up, you're being magdish, you're giving for, you said you're giving for tzedakah, something that's not here yet. So as much as it doesn't become hegdish, it doesn't become tzedakah, you are obligated to make it hegdish. So these differences, this is a lesson in the ruchnas in the service of Hashem. And what the Rebbe is going to say, I'm just going to say in the Kudah, what the Rebbe is going to explain, that these different inyonim is based on what it says in Tanya, the difference between a Beinani and the Tzaddik. We know what it says in Tanya, that the Tzaddik is a person that overcame his Yetzer Hara. Not only doesn't he do anything bad, doesn't he say anything bad, doesn't he think anything bad, that's Machshava Dibur Maaseh, but he also doesn't even have an urge to do it. He overcame his Yetzer Hara, that he doesn't even have a desire to do something bad. While the Beinani is a person that also never did anything wrong, not machshava, not deeper maaseh, but every time it comes, he has another fight. He has a desire, the Yetzer Hara throws in the desire, and nevertheless, he overcomes it, but it's only overcoming the actual action, but not that he overcame and changed, transformed himself, that his mahus became a mahus that doesn't have a taiva to do something bad. But the Beinani is not like that. The Beinani still has a taiva. Nevertheless, it says in Tanya that there is situations that even by a Beinani, even though he didn't overcome his mahus, who he is and all his keiches, nevertheless, sometimes he overcame his keiches, his mahus, concerning the Maaseh, as the Rebbe will explain. And this is parallel to what we said before in the Kinyonim. Why is it connected to Kinyonim? Why is the singing of the Aveda, of a Tzaddik or a Beinani part of Kinyonim? How does it fit to Kinyonim? So the Rebbe says like this: the Teichana Klolif in Avedas Hashem is Machna Kinyon. If you look at generally, what is the purpose of a person serving Hashem? What does it mean to serve Hashem? You're making a Kinyon. You're being Makna yourself to Hashem. The Eid is Makna Zich L'chol HaShalei Tzemei. A person gives over himself and everything he owns to the Eibishter. And in Order 12, the Rebbe says, in Pirkei Avos it says, Perek Vov, Yisrael Kinyon Echad. One of the Kinyonim that Hashem acquires is Yidden. And we know what it says in Lekutei Torah concerning the first Mishnah in Kedushin, where it says, how Isha Niknis to the husband, how a wife is Niknis, is acquired by the husband. So he says that the wife really, in Ruchnis, goes on the Yidden. The Yidden are acquired by their husband, which is the Eibishter. So again, here we see by Yidden, we use a Yid is acquired by Hashem. So he's makna himself to Hashem. So what he does is, he's makna himself as a Zolniker, Zayniker, as Aaron Alsva, Seframog, Zayin Beshusha, Balusa, Shagash Baruch. You have to make that it should be obvious that whatever you own, whatever is in your ownership under you, belongs to Hashem. How do you show that? By behaving through your maaseh, through action, through your dibur, through your speech, through your machshava, through your thought. Always, whatever you do, machshava, dibur, maaseh, you do according to Hashem's will. That's how you bring out that it's obvious that everything belongs to Hashem. And even machshava, the chure, we're talking about obvious. Making something obvious means to somebody else. Now, machshava is not for somebody else. So how is that part of making yourself obvious that everything belongs to Hashem? So now, Order 13, the Rebbe says, because when we say obvious, you don't only mean obvious to others, even obvious to yourself. It should come out the gilui within yourself. So even though machshava is not something for others, but it makes, if you think proper way Hashem wants, it's obvious to you. So the bottom line is that the Yid's Aveda is to be makna himself to Hashem through his behavior, with the way he speaks, the way he does, and the way he thinks. This could explain the Lashon of the Chachamim, that a Yid is supposed to say, I was created to serve my master. Leah's Beiri doesn't say, I'm created to serve my creator. Why does it choose the Lashon Kaini, the one that acquires me? Because if you serve Hashem, then you reveal that the Eibishter acquired you. You are makne yourself to the Eibishter. Das as the Yid is Kiyonish Lakash Baruch, and this that we said every Yid is the Kinyon of the Eibishter. So we said that's through your serving Hashem. But when will it? When will it be complete and it'll be really big Gilu and it'll be full-fledged? Mashiach will come. By the Udei Agula, as it says in the promises of Hashem concerning the coming of Mashiach the Geula. So he says, "Vayemahu Yosef Hashem Adnai Liknes Esharamim." That day Hashem will be Kaina all the Yidden. So it uses the word Kaina. So then it'll be fully. Now the truth is, it started even before already. We say in the Shira of the Yamsuf that by Yitzis Mitzrayim, Am Zukanisa Deibishter was Kaina, this nation. So even then already started the word Kaina. So from Yitzis Mitzrayim till Mashiach will come, the Aveda ours is to do that, to makne ourselves to the Eibishter by the Machshavah Diber Maisa doing the right thing, and it'll be complete for all the Eden when Mashiach will come. When in them Kinyan was Sayyid is sich makne zum Eibishter, this Kinyan, which Ayid is makne himself to Hashem, Zaina Faran, Tzvei Efanim, there are two ways, which means two darges. In the Ruchnis Aveda, two darges. One we would call Kinyan Aguf, and one is called Kinyan Peiris. Kinyan of the thing itself, and Kinyan Peiris. As we said before, that there are two ways. If you're Kinyan Aguf, not Lepeiris, if you're Kinyan something, an object itself, that's one Kinyan. But you're Kinyan the Guf, the whole thing is yours. Then you could be Maknet. If it's yours, you could be Maknet. Then there's Kinyan Peiris, if you're only Maknet Peiris. We're not talking at this moment about being makne something like the tree for the sake of the peiris. We're talking about these two. There's two ways. Makne the thing itself. I'm makne you a tree or I'm makne you fruit. That's Canaan. Then there's another way. I'm makne you peiris. So the din is when I'm makne you something, it works. It works. If it's bol elam, it works. If I'm makne you peiris, and if it's not bol elam, it doesn't work. So anything that I'm makne the object itself works. If I'm makne you for the future, doesn't work. But there are two types of kinyonim. So he says like this: the chiluk zwischen guf and peiris bo'odam is when we apply that to a human being, to a person serving Hashem. What's the difference between the kinyon of the guf of the thing itself or of the fruit? Like this: guf is the nefesh, the guf shalei v'keiche shalahem. The guf means, we're not talking the guf here, doesn't mean the body. The person's body. The body means the thing itself. So you are makne to the Eibishter, yourself, which includes your nefesh, your body, the keiches that the body has, kelel the seichel shebemeach mida shebelev, including the seichel that you have in your brain, the midas, the emotions that you have in your heart, v'chol ha-keiches, and all the attributes, the possibilities that you have, kelel keich ha-machshava hadiber v'maisa, the keich, the power of thinking, the power of speaking, the power of doing. That's guf. Guf is the thing itself. Peiris durch die Eiver im Levush HaNefesh. When we talk about peiris, peiris is fruit. Fruit is the produce that comes out of it. That refers to the actual action, not the power for it, but the doing itself that comes through the limbs of a person, through the levushim of the person, which is ruchnazik levushim, machshav is the burim amaisim, through thinking, doing, and speaking, but the actual doing. Before we were saying, what's part of the guf? Part of the guf is the kayach hamachshava. All the kayachas you have, everything you have, you with your guf and nefesh and all the kayach, everyone has a kayach hamachshava, kayach hadibur, kayach hamaister. That's called guf. Peiris is called when you act upon it, what comes out as done. When you do something b'maiser, when you say something b'dibur, you think something machshava, that's called peiris. That's the pepe mamish. And by the right way to do it is to do it that the peiris you have should be good. The Chazal say that the peiris, the produce of a tzaddik, are the mitzvahs, the actual doing mitzvahs, the maisim tevim, the good deeds. And why are they called fruit? They grow out of the person's intellect, the person's midas, the person's ability of machshava dibur ma'aseh. So you have the kaya, that everyone has a kaya. That's the thing itself. Then you have what comes out of it. This is the chiluk between kinyan peiros and kinyan aguf and avedas adam lekene. This is the difference when you come to make a kinyan of the peiros, which is the actual machshava dibur ma'aseh, the actual doing, thinking, and speaking, compared to being kinyan makna the guf. What does that mean? Kinyan peiros means when you're kinyan the makna the peiros means Ayid is makna to meibishn Allah seine machshavas diburim ma'asim. Ayid gives over to Hashem, makes Hashem acquire all his actual thoughts, all his actual speeches, things he speaks, all his actual actions. They are the peiros of the nefesh, of the keiches of the nefesh, which is the keich haseichel, the keich hamidis, and then you have the levushim. The levushim are also keich hamachshove, keich hadibur, keich hamaise. That's so. These are not the keiches. We're talking about the actual action which comes out are the peiros from the keiches. And it's vollständig abgehitten them. So when it means that you kinda the peiros means you are makna to the Eibishter, the fruit. Your actual machshava dibur ma'aseh. As I machshava dibur ma'aseh on allemal zayin behesed zum rotzen Hashem. That your machshava dibur ma'aseh should always be behesem, which fit to the way Hashem wants. So Balosh Natanya, when you gave them a darga from Abeni, like in Tanya it says concerning the level of Abeni, that le'over avera miyomov, he's a person never did actual avera. For the Yaver Le'elam, as he's standing now, he's in a matzav that he's not going to do any Avera ever. For Le'nikro of Shem Rosh, I feel the Shoachas V'Re'egechat Kol Yomov, and he's never called a Rosh. For 1 minute, for 1 second, never called a Rosh. So that's going on the actual Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh, that's what the Beini is. So that's your Makne to the Eibishter, your Peiros. The Peiros means your actual things that grew out of your Keiches. So your Keiches have the ability to think and to do and to speak. And when you actually speak, when the Peiros side, what comes out, you're makna to the Eibishter. Oh, but their goof, the thing itself, which is their etzem seichel, and the etzem of the midah, and the etzem of the keiches, is nit nikik vonis Eibishter. If you makna the Peiros means you're not makna the goof, which means you're not makna to the Eibishter, the keich itself, the keiches themselves. Sein meich und har seine nicht befreit von der Refshoris, Machshavas, midas rois und taibes. The brain itself and the heart are not free from the possibility that it might bring you to machshavas and dibur and maise, midas rois and taivas. As it says so that's the difference. Your maise b'peil, your dibur b'peil, machshav b'peil is good, but your keiches mitzad atzmam, their own, are not given over to the Eibishter. As far as they are concerned, it's possible that you will have a Yitzhak come and take over you. And he says in Hora 21, Ishmeina Parakim LaRambam, the Rambam writes in different words, but there are 2 types of Aveda Ba'id. You have someone who's a Chosid Ama'ula, a righteous person, a completely righteous, doesn't have taivas, and then you have a Kevish Yasich, somebody who has to fight with his Yitzhak. So it's the same idea we're saying here. So you have this person who is only Kinyan Peiros, means that he's clear that he doesn't speak or act anything against the Eibishter's Rotzeh, but the Keiches that he has are not given over completely to Hashem. But they're wecken sich in Herzen und kommen auf die Meiach. You could have taibes and these things which awaken themselves and come up in the person's Meiach, like it says in Tanya Perik Chov and in the beginning of Perik Tes. Nor hot ashlita for Yitzhak. The Keiches are not given over to Eibishter, but the person has a control over the Yitzhak. When the lost need, the midas rois and taibes will come and pay. He doesn't allow that the bad midas and the bad desires, the bad taivas should actually come to Moidrik and Machshav Dibur Ma'aseh should actually happen in Machshav Dibur Ma'aseh. Like it says in Tanya Perik Yud Beis and Perik Yud Gimel. This is the Aveda of a Beinani. That Kinyan Peiros is actual Ma'aseh Dibur Machshav is never as bad. So he's makna, that's the Eibishter's. But the Keiches themselves, which are the source of the Machshav Dibur Ma'aseh that you have, that's not given over to him. So in theory, every time that a Machshav comes up, in theory it's possible that you'll do it, but you have a bad machshava. The Pilmama, she doesn't. Kinyan Aguf is, when you speak about somebody who's makna the guf to the Eibishter, the Aveda from Tzadik. That's the Aveda of Tzadik, but he's makna to Eibishter, Eibim Etzem from Seichel and Midas. Like you give over to Hashem, the Seichel and Midas themselves. That is, durch dem, was mevatel, dem Etzem von seinem Yitzhahara. He's mevatel, he nullifies the Yitzhahara itself. And from the Etzem, Seichel and Midas, Roish, Belev, Cholach, Leichas. And all the Seichel and Midas Royas that's in the heart, all bad things possible, he overcame all the keiches. He overcame the keiches. Not only overcame the actual doing, the keiches themselves. These are im glustig nor Sachen von Tevek Dusha. He only desires to do good things and holy things. The Balder is a makten dem guf shall sichle mida shebelev b'chulu zum Eibishter. Since he gives up the thing itself, his seichel itself, and the midas themselves, and all the other things Hashem, now seine de peire shalei machshav v'dibur ma'aseh v'derech hamelech konu zum Eibishter. So automatically the fruit will be given to Hashem. So that's the truth. Just like in halacha, if you sell somebody and you give him the tree itself, automatically the fruit that come out are his also. Even though when I gave him the tree, the fruits weren't there. Who cares? Because the whole tree is his. Same thing here. If the person is maktan to Eibishter, the keiches that he has, the whole being of himself to the Eibishter, automatically the actual machshava dibur ma'aseh will go to the Eibishter. And darf nicht lechem sein, if nitzeton apula b'ma'aseh dibur machshava neged ratzon Hashem. Doesn't have to fight in order to make sure that he doesn't do a ma'aseh dibur machshava against Hashem. But He lechatchila doesn't have any will, any taiva to these things. Because he himself, everything of him is given over to the Eibishter. So that's the difference between if you're makna the peiris means only machshava dibur ma'aseh, but if you're makna the guf, the keiches are given over to Hashem, and automatically the peiris are also given over to Hashem. Das ist eine von der Biuren von was Tzaddik beton gerufen Eved Hashem. This is one of the reasons why Tzaddik is called Eved Hashem. Now in Horace 24, the Rebbe says, Bemis every Yid is called Eved Hashem. Not Daf Get Tzaddik. There's a posik. The Eibishter says, Avodayim, they're my avodim. It's negei la'aloche. Therefore, a person should not sell himself as an Eved to somebody else because you are an Eved of Hashem. So every Yid is an Eved. But that's in the general term. Proti, as we say, a tzaddik is called Eved Hashem. A Benyan is not called Eved Hashem. A tzaddik is called Eved Hashem. But Avdus is an inya from Kinyan Aguf. Guf is sholo Eved is Konyon Rabbi. Because that's what an Eved is. An Eved means that his being, his whole being. Now again here, it doesn't mean his body physically. It means he. The thing is that he is Konui acquired by his master. So therefore, everything that he owns goes over to his master. And Bedugmila says they wait for that tzaddik, and that's what that tzaddik is. He gave himself over to Hashem, and therefore he's given over to Hashem, and everything of his will be for Hashem. All the payers, just like by the Eved, all the things he acquires, even though they were not there yet when the master acquired the Eved, it came later. But because the Eved belongs to the master, so all the payers belong to him. Everything he gets later belongs to the master automatically. Same thing by a tzaddik. Since he gives over to Hashem, so all the things that come out later, the actual payers, which are his actual machshava dibur ma'aseh, they're all given over to the Eibishter because his etzem given over to the Eibishter. This will explain what is the pshat beruchnius that a person cannot be makne to the Eibishter something that's not there yet in the world. Like the din in halacha that if something is not there, you want to be maknet, you can. Same thing here. What does that mean? Einer was halting by the dargef in kinyan aguf. Someone who's not in the level of kinyan aguf, which means that he gave himself, everything of his is given to Hashem, all his keches. Nor blazed by kinyan peiris, he only hold him at the level where only his ma'asid dibur machshav is given to Hashem. Ken nor makten seine machshav is diburim ma'asid shlei kadosh baruch hu, but nicht sein guf dem seichel mina shebelev. He's a level of a person that could only give over his actual thought, dibur, and ma'asid Hashem, but not his etzem seichel and midas, etc. Dar wissen, so we tell him you have to know. And when we tell someone you have to know, it means take it in consideration and think about it and contemplate on and work on it. That what? He has to know, as er is bekeert, to shel sein durch mochome blaze of the maisim diburim, chule mit welchef anem tzikis bepel. That since you're only able to control what you are actually doing, so we're telling you, remember, you only could control what you are actually doing. You can't now be sure for something that's not there. You can't say, well, I'm sure tomorrow I'm not going to think in the machshava zaras. You can't do that. Because by you, all it's given over to the Eibush is the actual thought. So when you come to a thought, you could control that. But you're not in control of later. How do you know it won't happen? He makes now a conclusion. And he says, as he's going to do something good in the future, there's no kinyan. In other words, it's not guaranteed it's going to happen. You're not sure that what's going to happen later will be done according to the Eibish's will. He says, but just like in halacha, if you're makna him something that's not here, you could change your mind. Because it's not here. Same thing here. You said that you promised. You made a resolution to do something good, But you should know that it's not so sure it's going to happen. You are now not in control of what's going to happen later. Because it's Dover Shali Bo Leilam, and you're not in control. You're only in control of actually what you do now. Since your body is not konik, that means you yourself are not given over, acquired by Hashem. And the evil that's there in the person, which every human being has that in him, is strong. Didn't leave him. That's a lotion of Tanya in Perik. Gimel there it even says more. Not only that, as time passes, you get even more fagrept because you eat more gash, you do more gash, eat more food, get more fagrept. But upon him, you are not in control of what's going to happen later. So every time you have to fight again with the Yetzirah that's in your heart and your brain. That the type of the Yetzirah, the rots of the Yetzirah, should not come down into action. Next week, if you promise something to do next week, you will have to fight again next week. So it's possible that when it'll actually come to fulfill the promise you made, let's say the Yetzirah is Garba Zayin Achmon, let's time the Chas v'Sholom the Yetzirah is going to be overpower you. We will not allow that resolution, that good resolution will come into pale. So here we see that if there's a kinyan aguf, poshet your makna, the guf itself of something, that in ruchnius means you are yourself completely given over, then it works for later. Then you could be guaranteed not only you won't do now, but because you have no taibas anymore. So you could say next week, I know, so dover will work. So any paydas that will come, if I makna you a tree now, the whole tree is yours. The paydas that will come next week become yours, are yours too. In ruchnis, it means if you're completely given over to Hashem, so then whatever you plan to do later, we know you'll do it because you are completely given over to Hashem. And what we're going to say now is, but if it's only kinyan paydas, we're not guaranteed. We said so. What the Rebbe is going to say now that there is a possibility that even if you're only kinyan paydas, you're only in control of what's happening, the actual ma'aseh dibur machshove, but not for later. But there is a possibility, even by a beinani, who it is not kinyan aguf, it's not that he's completely given over, should also help for later. Which is that? Afa became still, he says, even those people who can't make yourself kinyan aguf, which means you can't transform the midas themselves and the rotzen of your meyach and everything after Hashem. You can't do not in that level. There is a way you could also be makna the fruit that will come later, even though they're not here now. How? Durch dem was is makne guf lepereisov. In halacha, what was the case? If you're makne, not giving him the guf of the peres, the guf of the tree, I mean. You're telling him the tree is not yours. But I'm being makna you the tree for the sake of the peres. Then it works. So you could do that, and the Rebbe will say, how? You do that in Ruchnis also. This says, as chodsh dem guf atzmi kennen it makna sein Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're talking about a person that is not giving over the guf itself. In other words, in the case of the tree, he's not saying the tree is you. I'm not giving you over the trees. Kennen aber makna sein dem guf beleis b'shayches lepereisa. You are able to be makna the guf, which in this case we're talking the guf means your mahus, who you are, your keiches, for the sake of the peres you could. What does that mean? What's the case? The asbor in them, so the explanation like this: the aveda from abeinani is not bagren, it's placed on the levush nefesh. Till now, it seemed that the aveda of abeinani is only the levushim. Levushim are the machshavah diber ma'aseh. These are called levushim, as we know. We've been saying the whole time. The garments of the nefesh are not the mahus of the person. The keyach is the mahus, even the keyach of that levush, but the actual doing is not abeinani only control over that. That's what we say till now. But now the Rebbe says it's not so poshut. Aveda Rabbeinu is not limited only to the levushim. As jeder mal beim Beliebe bechule bet nisera taive berotzen ze beleis lechen zu vermeiden these pashtas taive berotzen in machshav der meise. It's not only that he's only able at every time in his heart comes up a taive, he's able to fight it. Comes up a taive to think bad, fights it and he overcomes it. To speak bad, overcomes it. To act bad, he overcomes it. So he doesn't allow the pashtas of the taiva to come spread out into the action. Not only that, nor the Aveda is eich peil of the mitzvah seichel atzman. The Aveda of a beinani is that when he does that, that also has an effect on the keiches themselves. As it is keife, he could bend He could bend to a certain degree the evil that's in the heart and that's in the zmeach, in a way that it leaves a trace even for the future. That's the whole point here. That Beinani could, even though he only overcomes as the mice is happening bepale, but he could be in such a way that it even has effect on the keach ha'mice and the keach ha'machshav and the keach hadibur. And he quotes in Ha'orah 31 from the Loshen in Tanya, V'zuhi iker melchemes ha'beinani, the main war of the Beinani is lishlet el rasha belev, to fight the ra that's in his heart. Not only the ra that comes to do, when it comes to actual doing, even the heart itself. By him being a me'erer, the Ava of Hashem in his heart. So a Beinani is able to be me'erer, not only at the time when it's active, also on the keach. That Alter Rebbe is mevayir. Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Perek Yud Beis, Perek Yud Gimel, as b'shas hatfila is a Beinani me'erer b'azich avas Hashem b'izgalas libei, that when you're davening, a Beinani while he's davening, it's a special time when he's davening. That's when he has the Avet to Hashem be his galus libet in a revealed way. So Beinani that davens properly, so does paled as the Rashi believes odel mazayin ki odem sheyoshem. So the evil in his heart of who his mahus is also affected. Now it's not transformed and so to speak killed the Yetzer Hara, but it's like a person who's sleeping. When you're sleeping, you also it's like the taivas he has is not dead like by a tzaddik, but it's like a sleep. So that feeling he had during davening, which is daven to Hashem, leaves a trace that a whole day he's misgaber and controls the evil of the heart. So mainly here we see that this is a Beinani, and it's only shaychas to Kinyan Peiros, but it's possible that he should control even the koyach that he has, the mahus that he is, not like a tzaddik, but enough for the Peiros, enough that he knows that the machshav di Ramaisa will be good. On bifrat, especially the Baal the mitzvah from the Bein Mishasat Fil is by Imita Nemes. Since when we're speaking about the Beinani that during davening he has this great avid to Hashem is real. It's with an emes, and emes we know it says sfas emes tikilad. Sfas emes means the edge of emes lasts forever, and it's interesting. Sfas emes means there are a lot of levels in emes. Sfas emes is the lowest. It's only the border of emes, but even that, because it's emes, it lasts forever. What happens here? But the keach tzemeiros and adi aval Hashem, he's able to awaken this love to Hashem, the truth in the truth, und durch dem einschläfert in dem rasha belibe, and through that to put asleep the ra that he has in his heart, that the mahus of his heart, the ra is not fell there. And he's able to do it. He's able to do it every day. In other words, when you do it, you could make it continue, that it should be every day, even for the future. It comes out as a Beinani hot a gewisse Schlitte of the mahus v'atzmas the midas v'chula from the Yetzer Hara, that the Beinani has a certain control not only on the actuality when it comes to actually machshava di b'ramaisa, but even on the etzem of the person, which is the etzem of the Yetzer Hara, that his taiva is sleeping, so he also won't get a taiva. And b'meila, what will happen? So here, just like in the halacha, we said that when you're makne the goof for the sake of the peiros, it works even that the peiros that's not there yet will become yours. Same thing here. If you do this, so you have a control over the goof, b'meila the peiros for the future also works. That's why it says there that. Und das geht a Teises Bir, in dem what the Alter Rebbe sagt wegen Beinani. This explains what the Alter Rebbe says concerning Beinani. He says le'ovar aveira miyoma v'le'yaver le'elam, that he's a person that never actually did an aveira, never in his life, and never will. Which means mitzad matzove behavior. That's what it means. The way his matzav, his situation is now, is batuach as le'yaver le'elam. He's guaranteed that he will not do it for the future. Even though we said before that the Beinani B'chlal cannot do anything for the future, only B'shas Maaseh, but now we're saying there is a way he could do it. That means as Eir Ba'osid that the Zicher can Shel Zayin af Yetzer Hara und Niton kan Aveira. Even in the future, he'll be able to control the Yetzer Hara and not do have any Avera. But the Beinoni hot Ashlita Eich, the Midas Chulu from the Yitzhara. The Beinoni has control not only on the pale of the Yitzhara's doing, and Machshav Dibra Maise, but even on the Midas themselves. Nor need of the Etzem Amida Kishala Atzma, not on the Midas as it is that they are not there anymore. Nor blaze beyachatz is pashtus peiris imachshav Dibra Maise. Only the control concerning the actual doing, which is not like a tzaddik. A tzaddik is the guf itself is given over. A normal, regular Beinoni is just the peiris given over. And here's a Beinoni which is close to a tzaddik. That it was that you don't have a Yitzhahara, but you do. But Lagabe, the doing, it's as if you don't have a Yitzhahara, and it's sleeping, and B'meila, you could be guaranteed for later. When those are the rinja for Makna Guf Lepeiris and Aveda Sodom, this is what it means, Beruchnis and Aveda Vayid, that you could be Makna the Guf for the Peiris. I feel like halting by the Darge from Kana Dibur Machna Metzem from the Midas V'chulu Shibalibe. Even if a person is not in the level that he could change the essence, the real thing of his Midas, etc., of his heart. He shouldn't have any desires, etc., etc. He's over but still, even a Beinoni has the power to cause akfiyah, force if seine Midas v'chulu on the Midas themselves. Al kaponim b'shaycha to zeir espash as guf leperes. At least concerning it's spreading out into your ma'aseh, which is the guf leperes. So you control the guf, not the guf itself. You're not giving the guf. The guf is still a guf, which is of guf of the guf meaning not the body, the keiches and everything of the Beinoni. But legabe the peres, yeah. When them was ein eich peres of machshavas dibur ma'aseh. So then even the fruit, which is the machshavas and diburim and the ma'asim, shalei bo le'ilam, that are not here yet, knuyan Hashem, they're also given over to Hashem. It is in the matzav from le'yaver le'ilam, he's in the matzav that he will never. In other words, now you could say for later. Before we said that Beinoni cannot say it for later. When it comes to do, you have the keach to overcome the Yitzhar, but for later you can't say. It's sad you could. But the Beinoni like this could even say it for later, and that's why it says le'yaver le'ilam. The matzav is now that he will not do it later. Now, how? The Rebbe still didn't say how he does it. So before in the Ha'ara, he did bring what it says in Tanya, that the disavaded, that you have to be made a dav, etc., etc. But now the Rebbe says it in different words, saying what it is that he has, a power. How does he have this power? Even his only Beinoni, he still has the power of making over his etzem and his keiches. In andere Werte it means in other words like this. Need can come to the dargif and Eved Hashem was goofy koinol Hashem, even though not everybody could come to the level being an Eved Hashem. That means his whole muhuz, who he is acquired by Hashem. Is a b'yed yid ashliach from Eibush. Every yid is a messenger from Eibush. Is an agent of the ashliach. Was hodi keiches durch tefilin kavanas abriya lasle is borad tachtenim. Everyone has the ability to accomplish the kavanah of the Eibishter to make a dira in this world. Why could he do it? Because every yid is a shliach. Al shluchi shalodom, say we know the shliach of a person is like him, and in Al Rebbe says in L'Kutei Torah that this also goes on the Eibush, the shluchi shalodom ha'elyon, Yidden ha'shluchim of the Eibush, who's called the Odom ha'elyon, and he becomes say the Meshaleach mamish. The shliach becomes mamish like the Meshaleach, like the one that sent him. So every yid becomes mamish like the Eibush. And we know the Geret Kam Upon the Rebbe says, I said many times, there is a few levels of shlichus. Not to go into the details, we know from the base of Engel, there are 3 levels. But the Rebbe says the hechserei from the shlichus is what's the highest level of a shliach? As nit nor ma'isa shliach. Or there are feel keich hasiyah shalei. Is it mashachas u'meshaleach? So I'll explain. The one level is that the shliach, let's say Reuven makes Shimon the shliach to do something for him. So Shimon, who's the shliach, is Shimon, not Reuven. But the Torah said that if Shimon does it, it works for Reuven if Reuven appointed him a shliach. There's a higher level that Shimon Tak is not Reuven the Shimon, but his action we consider as if his action was done by Reuven. First way was his actions are done by Shimon. We're not even consider it, but it works for Reuven. The second way is that his actions are as if Shimon did it. And the third way is more that klolos mitziusa shel hashlichus kabeis mashleich mamish. Shimon becomes Reuven. He is like him. And now, but this that what he does works for the other guy is automatic. The first thing that happens is that the person becomes him. Now it's automatic. If he becomes him, so whatever he does works for him because he is really Shimon is really Reuven. So every yid is a shliach. So every yid has this highest level of shlichus. He becomes like the mahus of the Eibishter. So how is that different than we said before that only a tzaddik is an evet? It's not like an evet. He's a shliach, but not like an evet. Because an evet is not klal. Never does nothing for himself. Kol gufi is konel Rabbi. His whole being, his whole body, everything he has belongs to the master. Even the highest level of shlichus, but the shliach atzmei, nit nur am Eis oder Kirch Asiyah, is the Meisa am Shliach Mamish. The highest level that not only what does is the Meshalaya, but he becomes the Meshalaya, but nevertheless, he's a snor b'shaychet to the minyan ashlichus. He's only like the Meshalaya in the inyan that he's supposed to be the shliach. In other words, Shimon becomes Ruven, but not Shimon automatically becomes Ruven. He becomes like Ruven. If Ruven is smart, Shimon becomes smart. Only Legaba this shlichus, which fits to the words guf lepereso. It's the guf, but only for the paytas for what we're trying to do. Not like everything else. So he's not an Eved, but he is a shliach. Every day is a shliach. Since every day is a shliach, as jeder hier im Kirch zu übergeben, kloles mit Zusse zum Eibischen. Every person has the ability, has the power to give himself over to his whole mitzvahs to Hashem, to become a shliach, to fulfill the kavanah, the purpose of the creation. But when he gives himself over completely, generally, at least legabe the peiros, therefore everything that he does, whether it's what he does or the Buddha of Machshavesa of his speech and his thoughts, they all become Knuyim Lashem, Masim, saying that lots of Mashleit, they become Knuyim Lashem. So here we see in Ruchnius that it's Guf Leperesov. It's not the Guf itself, then for sure all the pay that they come automatic. If the Guf is the other guys, they gave it to him, everything that happens is his. Even if the Guf is still mine. But because for the paytas, it's as if it's his. So here also Beruchnius that Benjamin could make it so that his gives himself, even though he didn't give over his own mahus, but you could give the gabe, the union of the Maisa Machshava and Dibur, it's as if you gave his over completely. In them is the Rambam Machadish Nochman. Here the Rambam has a nuch thing. Adina Hegdish, Adina Hedi Bikniose. That by Hegdish, it's not like by an ordinary case. If a person says, whatever my payment will give birth to, should be Hegdish. So even though he said, since it's Leib yet, it doesn't become Hegdish, but he has to keep his word. Was in the Ruchnis, it means like this. If someone is not in the level, even that level, the middle level, that he is guf lepereisav. A person who doesn't have control on the keiches themselves, not even legabe the connection to the peiros. So the mele he can't for the future. He can't say, "I'm going to do something in the future." I know that you're going to give it over to the Eibishter because you didn't change your midas, you didn't change your keiches. The mele, whatever you do is you could control, but not later. So every time when you come to do something, you have to go to the fight again. In order for your meiser or dibur, whatever should be the way the Eibishter wants, your master wants, you have to fight again. But that's by regular case. That said, when you're trying to talk about doing something that's hedyet, that's ordinary, like the Rambam says that there's no obligation for you to make that kinyan. What does that mean? Things which are divrei reshus means things which are no mitzvahs. For instance, a person makes a hachlot and takes a resolution that he will eat l'shem shemayim. He doesn't have to eat. It's not a mitzvah to eat. So here it's also, he's trying to do something for the sake of Hashem, but it's a inyan shel reshus. Reshus something means no mitzvah. It's not aveda, but it's no mitzvah. And in that you're trying to work something good. Here, you can't do it for the future. If you're in that madrega that your goof is not given over at all, not even the pereis. When it comes to hegdish, holy matters, which means achlot estavis in inyonim from Teirei mitzvahs. When you make good resolutions for Teirei mitzvahs, shemitzuva l'kaim d'or, he has to do. You make achlot to Teirei that you're going to learn Teirei tomorrow. Not you're going to eat in a good way. You learn Teirei. You make achlot and you put on film. Is enochanamas can kinyan tutni tufa b'achatose b'achefze b'adov shchutz lodom. So enochaname, it doesn't change the object itself, like we said by the halacha, that if it's hegdish and you say the dover shalibol is not here, it will not make it hegdish. Same thing here. Since even though it's a mitzvah and you make achlota for later, you can be sure that this thing is going to happen. As verto beruvgit nachiyah ba'odom, but you are obligated to keep it. That means, in Ruchnis, it means, since there is an obligation upon you, the Eibishter helps you. You get a special help from Hashem, since it's a mitzvah. And this is going to, you made achot to do a mitzvah, so you could, I don't know if I could write the right word to be guaranteed that it'll work for the future, but almost like, because it's not considering a mitzvah, even though the thing didn't change, and I'm not so sure that you'll do it, you can't be sure, but there is a lot of chance that you'll do it because it's a dover shel mitzvah. When the asbara in them, the explanation is like this: the divrei reshus shel odom. What's the difference? Why divrei reshus you don't have that keach and divrei mitzvah you do? So he says because divrei reshus shel odom zayin bikar verbunden mit teva guf of nafshe b'hamis. All the divrei reshus, like eating, drinking, sleeping, divrei reshus are connected to the nature of a person, to the nature of the body of the nefesh b'hamis. The nefesh b'hamis wants it. You want to eat food. You want all these things. It's something that your person needs for his existence, for his life. So that's nefesh b'hamis. The nefesh elikis can pale zayin ad yemaisim zol geton werden l'shem shemayim. The nefesh elikis could work and influence that it should be done l'shem shemayim. That the things that come from the nefesh b'hamis should be l'shem shemayim. Aber eich den noch, even after that, bleiben sie masecha shel odom divrei reshus. Says pulish b'tzad guf. When you do l'shem shemayim, the lashon is called masecha yi l'shem shemayim. All your things should be l'shem shemayim. So even and your things means not mitzvahs. Your things, eating, drinking, sleeping, whatever. Even when you do it l'shem shemayim, it's still yours. It's not a eibush. It's not a mitzvah. It's yours. So even after it, it still remains yours. Meaning the nefesh b'hamis, the tivis. Dagegen the yonef teire mitzvahs are lechatchila pulish b'tzad neshama. Teire mitzvahs are lechatchila things of the neshama. The Yetzer Hara proof nor stern the meanings from kind of mitzvahs. Not the Yetzer Hara makes it do. The Yetzer Hara, you are the neshama wants to do it. The neshama has the power to do it. The Yetzer Hara tries to block it. When the asiyas la mitzvah come to them, but the neshama is kafet the mitzvah. And when do you do the mitzvah? If your neshama forces the Yetzer Hara against it. This is Toshas Yitzrei, he makes the Yetzer Hara weak. This is the Lashon of the Rambam, when the Rambam says that every Yid wants to do Torah mitzvahs. Some people say, I don't want. It's not that he really doesn't want. He really wants, his neshama wants. But the Yetzer Hara is forcing you against your own will. And therefore, if you force the Yetzer Hara away, then it weakens the Yetzer Hara. Same thing, that's what the Rebbe says here, that when it comes to mitzvahs, every Yid has that power in itself. But the Yetzer Hara sometimes tries to stop it. He interferes. So the neshama has the power to kaifa, to force the Yetzer Hara, to weaken the Yetzer Hara. Today the neshama is loken v'kayim zed the mitzvah. The neshama should be able to do the mitzvah. So the divrei reshus, as much as you're trying to do a good thing, it still remains nefesh b'hamis things. When you do a mitzvah and you want to do a mitzvah, it's be'etzem, it's l'chatchila a thing that you would be doing. The other one, you have a war, and you make good achlota, but it's still nefesh b'hamis. And those are the tam achilik from hegyet and hegdish. Just the difference between hegyet and hegdish, ordinary things and hegdish. The shas are eating them torah achlota stated the shaycha to the divrei reshus shalei knias hegyet. I mean, takes achlota for reshus things. That's called knias hegyet. This makne something that's hegyet. You bald a din yonim zayne bikar and pulis from guf nefesh b'hamis. These things are mainly from the guf nefesh b'hamis. And the rodam hat noch nicht kan Schlita von Gufen sein Yetzer Hara. And we're talking about a person that doesn't control the Yetzer Hara itself. Hat sich da nicht aufgetan kechi v'shibud, was is a Sach, was nicht bei Lusa. So you didn't really meshabed, that means it becomes like a konoi. Why? Because it's not really yours. It's a nefesh b'hamis things. Elamai, you have to do it in a proper way. So here, you cannot be sure for the future. When it comes to holy things, Torah mitzvahs, they belong to their things of the neshama. But the only thing is you have to get rid of the Yetzer Hara trying to stop you. Is the achlota teva gufashem. It's not a neshama. Shem achayev meshabed in neshama. So when you make the decision, the resolution to do good, it's really something that's really yours. So you are in control of it. So even though to say that it's taki becomes be'etzem acquired by the Eibishter, that's not like by the tzaddik. Why not? While the Yetzer Hara can in them stern, the Yetzer Hara could still stop you. V'meile is not talking vadois as if it kumuli de peil. So we're not sure it will actually happen. Aber legaba neshama, but looking from the neshama's perspective, since naturally the neshama is ready to do this bepeil. Since it's hurt, it's the yonim of the neshama. So the neshama besem own controls it. So you have to keep it. Even though it didn't come yet, because it's outside of you. It's yonim that you're not in control completely of it. But nevertheless, it's enough that since it's holy things, which is the neshama things, so the neshama is to a certain degree in control. And since the Torah, it's Torah mitzvah, it's something that you're obligated to do. It's a commandment of Hashem, so that includes a help and a siyua that comes from Hashem. Adin neshama, the Eibishter helps you. Adin neshama is a kenes mizgaber zayin of dimni Hashem inside the guf. Shema should be able to overpower all these obstacles that comes from the body. And it should do it. So if it's a case of hegdish, for the future, you can be makned, but nevertheless, there's an obligation to do it. And if there's an obligation, you have a special kayach, and there's a very strong chance that you could be almost guaranteed that it'll do it. It should be the will of Hashem, that by getting involved in the halachas of kinyan, of acquisition, so very soon we should have the fulfillment of the promise of Hashem that day Mashiach will come. Hashem will take his hand to be keine all the Yidden. I said, Mekuyim werden der Ad Yavram Hashem Ad Yavram Zuk, and be fulfilled the pale. But it said by Kriyas Yamsuf that Ad Yavram Zuk Nisa the Eibishter is keine the Yidden. The Eibishter wird keine sein Name beschleimus. Then the Eibishter will keine the Yidden, his nation completely. And durch them, the andere Kanyonim was going to Baruch Bilama, and through that, the Eibishter will be keine all the other things which the Eibishter made the keine. That's what it says in Pirkei Avos, that there are 5 things the Eibishter is keine. These some kinyan from Beis Hamikdash, kinyan echad. One kinyan is the kinyan that's the first one is the Beis Hamikdash, that will have the Beis Hamikdash Ashlishi, the third Beis Hamikdash Yibone B'Mheira B'Yemeina Mamash, that will be built very, very soon in our time.